Okay, so we're ready to get started. So I hope everyone had a really great Easter. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Katie Rosewood, and I'm one of the guitar teachers at All Age Music School. I started playing guitar when I was a teenager, playing rock guitar. So my first guitar was an electric guitar, and I was playing stuff like Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and all that good stuff. I then went on to do a degree at the Sydney Conservatorium doing classical guitar, and finished up there about 5 years ago and started working on my original music, which fuses classical guitar and rock music. So that's my passion now, doing gigs, fronting a band, and also teaching guitar at this lovely music school, All Age Music. So today I'll be doing a fingerpicking workshop, and I'll be covering technique for fingerpicking, and also about 4 different songs. I'm just going to get my microphone set up, so just give me 1 second. Okay, I have a new toy. It's this tiny little microphone called a Rode Video Me L, which should improve the sound a little bit for you guys. Okay, so we're going to start with the letters of the right hand. So if you're right-handed, that will be your picking hand. Obviously if you're left, it will be the other way. This hand has letters for the fingers. So it's P for the thumb, I for the index, M for the middle, and A for the ring finger. And that comes from the Spanish letters, Spanish words for these fingers. So pulgar for the thumb, for those of you that want to know that. So pulgar, indice, medio, annular. The little finger we never really use. It's quite rare to see this finger used because you have to change the angle a lot, and it can disrupt your playing. Okay, so we had Pima, P-I-M-A. Okay, so when you're playing, your normal position should be with the thumb in the middle of the sound hole. That's for your standard sound. If you play at the back here, you're going to get a really twangy, bright sound. If you play over the fretboard, you're going to get a delicate, sweet sound. So for your standard position, you need your thumb in the middle of the sound hole. Okay. The next thing is you need to, when you're playing, you can use the flesh of your fingers or you can use your fingernails. And it doesn't matter too much which one you do. If you're doing classical guitar, most players will use their fingernails, but the flesh of the finger is also fine. It gives a slightly different, softer sound. Also, your wrist position is really important. When you're playing a more folky style, you can have a flatter wrist, and you'd probably be using the flesh of your fingers to play. When you play classical style, you have more of a bent wrist, and this is so that you can focus on using these stronger joints of your finger, because volume can be an issue with classical guitar playing because we don't have amplifiers. So it's something really important to try and get a really powerful movement of your finger. And if you use these little finger joints, it's not going to be as strong. So we go from the big joints. The angle of a bent wrist also helps you, helps you avoid hitting the strings behind, because you might accidentally knock them if you're too flat. Alright, so let's get into some songs. So the first song I have for you is Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, because it's got the most basic, really good starting point for fingerpicking. So it's a 6-note pattern. You're going to put your thumb, P, on the low E string, and then I, M, A on G, B, E. So thumb on low E, index on G, middle on B, ring on E. And when you start, every finger has to be in place, and that is called preparation. Really helps when you're nervous, because your hands might shake, and this way you can feel that they're very secure and ready to play. Okay, so it goes like this. You've got thumb, and then I'm going to put that on a string, and then index, middle, ring, middle, index. So it sounds like this. Alright. Hi Stuart. Hi Bron. So those are two people from my adult group guitar class, and we've done this together. So they know all about preparation. So we have the 6-note pattern, and every time the thumb plays, the fingers get ready. So that's the Nothing Else Matters melody. So that's a really good starting point for you to get going. Okay, so the next pattern, it's actually the same one, but the thumb will be jumping to different strings. So when you're playing, when you're finger picking, you are usually outlining a chord. So you might take your D chord, and then you play the notes in that chord. Rather than a melody where you would play single notes and you would let go of each note as you go, like happy birthday. With an arpeggio or a broken chord, we actually want the notes to ring into each other. So when we do that, we let them blend. So this is from Everybody Hurts by R.E.M. When the day is long and the night is yours alone. So that was the same pattern that I used before, where you're going thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index. But because we're using different chords that get strummed from different strings, when we play the D, we need our thumb on the D string to start. And then when we play the G chord, we need our thumb on the low E string. Because we need the correct bass note. Thanks, Guy. Hope you guys had a good Easter, you and Talon. So the thumb will move around depending on what chord you are on, because something called the root note is changing. A root note is the bass, is the number 1 in your chord. So like, for example, if you're playing an A major chord, it's an A note. So for A major, you start with your thumb on the A string. So whatever letter chord it is, that's the note you should be starting your picking on. So A chord, A note. E chord, you start on the E. And so on. So you could do, last example, you could do a C. The note C is on the 3rd fret of the A string. Okay, so that's the concept of root notes and arpeggios. Okay, so the next song that we're going to look at is a classical piece that I give a lot of my students that want to learn fingerpicking. So the pattern used in this piece goes thumb, index, middle, index. So I don't know how well you can see this, but the thumb has actually moved from its usual place on the bass strings to the G. So the thumb is on G, index on B, middle on E. And it's a 4-note pattern, unlike the one we did before, which was 6 notes. So it goes P, I, M, I. P, I, M, I. And we're doing that preparation that I talked about before. Every time you start a new round of 4 notes, you have to have all your fingers prepared on the strings. So you can also see that my thumb is jumping to one of the lower strings. That's so that I never have any fingers in the air, because that gives me a really stable point to work from. So once my thumb plays, it jumps to the D string, and then my index, middle, index plays. So thumb, index, middle, index. Thumb, index, middle, index. Okay, so it's like when you are writing. So if you are writing on a piece of paper, you'll notice that you usually anchor your hand to write. But if you try to write in the air, it's really hard to get it neat. So this is the same thing. If we anchor some of our fingers on the strings, we can be much more accurate. Okay. So when you're doing P, I, M, I, there's a piece by a classical composer called Dionisio Aguado that goes like this. That's a really good one to learn. So that was all P, I, M, I, and you're moving to different strings. Okay, so I've got a couple more patterns for you guys. I hope you're enjoying this so far. You will definitely know the next one. So this one is Blackbird. This pattern is a bit different to the other ones we've done because every pattern we did was one finger at a time. But now we're going to pluck the thumb and the middle finger at the same time. So it goes thumb and middle and then index. Thumb and middle, index. So I'm going to put my thumb on the A string, middle finger on the B string, index finger on the G, and I'm going to pluck thumb and middle, then index. And I also want to introduce another thing here. You can see my ring finger is staying on this string to keep my hand stable. It's another way of anchoring. So from the side, front bed, it looks like this. So I've got PM, I, PM, I, PM, I, PM. Okay, so you've got the P and M and then the I. Okay, so the next pattern I would like to show you is from one of my songs, Leaving Rose Bay. This one has a lot of movement in it, but it's got the same concepts that I talked about before. So preparing the fingers earlier and resetting every time you do a round of the pattern. So for this one, we have the thumb on the low E, the index finger on the D string, the middle finger on the B string, and the ring finger on the E string. So the fingers are kind of separated a bit. So you've got like thumb, index finger, middle, and ring. Every time I start a round, those fingers will be on those strings. So it looks like this. P, I, P, I, P, M. So P, I, P, I, P, M. I, A, M, A, I, M. So this one's a little bit longer than the other one. So P, I, P, I, P, M. I, A, M, A, I, M. If people have just tuned into this video, they'll be like, what are all these letters? P, I, P, I, P, M. I, A, M, A, I, M. So a little bit longer pattern. So in the song, I do that on this chord. Okay, so I'm just going to play you a little bit of this song. Hi Ella, I'm glad you're practicing. Okay, so there were a few different patterns happening in that song. So we had the first one that I talked about, which was P, I, P, I, P, M, I, A, M, A, I, M. That was the main one. In the chorus, I was using another one where you plant the thumb on the low E, the ring finger on the high E, and you play those together, and then you play play M-I. So P-A and then M-I. P-A together and then M-I. So that was... And this is really fun, guys. It's really fun to do. So it's worth putting in the time so that you can be able to move around. And what better time than when we're all stuck at home, right? Okay, so the final thing that I want to show you guys today is something super cool called tremolo. And this took me a really long time to be able to do, but you guys can get it quicker because I'm going to tell you the most important thing to do for it. My opinion of what the most important thing is. So tremolo is a technique where you're doing finger picking on one string. What I mean by that is the thumb is still moving around, but A-M-I will stay on the one string. So could be the high E, A-M-I. And it's like a little flick. So you know when you're messing around and maybe you're waiting for something and you tap on the table, it's that kind of motion where you're going da-da-da, 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 A-M-I. Notice how if you go I-M-A, it's harder. Very hard to get that sounding nice and even. That's just the way all of our hands work. When we go to grab something, the hand makes that kind of a motion. Okay, so we're doing that, but on a string. So there's a very famous classical piece called Requietos de Alhambra that does this. So we're doing thumb, A, M, I. And the key to this is when you play the A finger, or when you play the thumb rather, your A finger should be on. So they go down together, and then you play A, M, I. So thumb and A go together, and then A, M, I. Show you from the side. So thumb and ring both attach. A, M, I. A, M, I. Okay, so I'll just have a sip of water. So I recently wrote a song with this technique, and I do it on the E minor, and then D, C, E minor, D, So technique is, it's really cool to practice technique because then you can do fun stuff like tremolo. So to do that, you got to practice putting your thumb and ring finger at the same time, and then A, M, I. Okay, so that was my last last song to share with you guys today, but if you have any comments and questions, feel free to ask and tag me in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer. Thanks, Michelle. So also with the music school, every lesson has been moved online now, and we're loving the positive feedback that we've had from that. I think it's really making us think differently about teaching and learning, which is going to serve us really well in the future. And so if anyone's interested in learning at the music school, you can either call or private message All Age Music. And if you would like to support my own music, you can do so for free by liking my Facebook page and also streaming my music and following me on Spotify. So I'll put my Facebook page in the links below. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson today, and it's been a pleasure to show you some of these techniques, and have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.